My name is Behnke. I'm head of production for Livestream, and welcome. Does everybody have paperwork? Does anybody need any paperwork? Graham can pass some out. All right. Awesome. So Thomas Wallace is my senior producer. We're going to talk to you today about the Livestream Studio HD500 and the Livestream Broadcaster. We're going to talk about the Livestream Broadcaster first. Just a note on the Livestream Broadcaster, which we'll talk about, very exciting news. We just put Verizon LTE in the Broadcaster. It's a pretty exciting development for us, but we'll talk about that, what we like to call the little red box. First off, just so you understand, basically we do about 100 productions a month, live productions. Facility downlinks, we downlink satellite for major clients, Nike, Oprah Winfrey Network, the Obama campaign, just to name a few, Food Network. I have been with Livestream about 2 years. I freelanced with them probably about 4 years now. I just finished my 11th year for the New Year's Eve in Times Square celebration, dropping the ball. This was the 4th year that I did the webcast. Thomas and I produced that. It was seen by about 1.2 million people this year, which is pretty exciting. We beat CNN and Fox News Channel, which I'm very proud of. So Thomas is going to take it away, and we'll start with the Livestream Broadcaster. We're going to save questions. If you have a question about immediately what we're talking about, just raise your hand. We'll stop what we're doing. We'll talk about it, and I can explain everything. We'll talk a little bit about the platform as well. The main thing about Livestream is that we're a platform, and we're all about connecting people to live events, and the hardware kind of it puts us in that place that we can help connect people to live events.
So we're going to start with the Broadcaster, and there you can see it mounted on top of a camera. The Broadcaster is a standalone hardware encoder that lets you push live HD video to the web without a PC. So the Broadcaster is currently available in the B&H store, and there it is. It's going for $470.25. And to take a quick look at some of the connections, you get HDMI in, you get a mini jack in for audio if you don't want to use embedded on the HDMI. You have a USB port for an external 4G modem, power, and Ethernet. And here we've got another view of it. You can see we've got a space for 3 AA batteries as well. You'll get about 2 hours of streaming off of a set of batteries, and you can actually hot swap. So if you're streaming and your batteries are running low, you can just plug your power in and swap your batteries without terminating your stream. Here's just the basic setup that we have. GoPro running into the Broadcaster, streaming with 4G. So the beauty of the HDMI is obviously you can do anything from a GoPro to a consumer Handycam up to an AF100 or an FS700 or really any HDMI device at all. You can stream using the 4G that you see there, or you can plug in Ethernet or Wi-Fi. And as Corey mentioned, we also just announced a built-in LTE version that we partnered with Verizon on.
The great thing about that is that the Verizon LTE version uses UDP. So as you know, this version uses TCP/IP. So when you plug in the 4G on this, you get less of a connection, unfortunately. And so we teamed up with Verizon to get the UDP going on the Verizon LTE, and it goes straight to Verizon's network. So it doesn't go Verizon network, internet. It goes straight to Verizon network, then directly to our platform, which is very helpful. Did you have a question, sir?
As part of the 3 receiving modes, do you have an adaptive bitrate in the thing sending it out?
No, so it's a single stream. That's one of the, it's more of a consumer device, so it is a single stream. We do pride ourselves on adaptive bitrate on our new platform. So our producer and Broadcaster encoding software, as well as the HD500, which we're going to demo, are adaptive bitrate, so you can spit out multiple streams. The HD500 does HD, medium, and mobile, or some combination of those. And our producer and Broadcaster software actually does HD, high, medium, and mobile, so you can actually spit out 4. The Broadcaster does not. We hope to introduce cloud transcoding at some point in the future so that you could stream HD and then the cloud would actually spit back out the 3 qualities. We don't currently do that, so it's a single stream. So I technically recommend medium so that your mobile users aren't affected. You know, if you stream with HD and then your mobile users they don't have yeah, exactly.
Okay,
It's a
cool.
good question.
So you choose the bit rate that you're sending out?
Yeah, so on the device, I can actually choose which bitrate I want, and you can choose from mobile, medium, normal, high, or HD. There is no price right now, and the LTE ships NAB, I believe. That's what we're trying to do, April. So the plan is to ship by April. That question is above my pay grade.
So you have to have a plan with it when you buy the LTE version?
Actually, there's some debate about whether a plan will come with the LTE version or not. It'll be in the pricing though.
So if you guys want to, you can go to store.livestream.com and check out a curated list of accessories that we've come up with for use with Broadcaster and a number of different cameras. We also have a mobile app that you can use with Broadcaster that's really cool. You can actually log into your Broadcaster remotely from anywhere in the world that you have a connection. You can start a broadcast, you can end a broadcast, and you can also actually use the app to post live video directly from your phone. We have an iOS version and an Android version. This is actually like
we added the ability to be able to create events on the Broadcaster or on your phone, so you really don't need a computer with the Broadcaster. I've literally been on the field. What's crazy about the Broadcaster to me, just quickly, is that all the multiple use cases we've seen people use, we've had this in a race car, racing around. I've seen it used at a tailgate. I've seen it used for kids' parties. I mean, it really has, you take this, your phone, and a really small GoPro, and the size is, you know, substantial.
The Broadcaster is also obviously seamlessly integrated with the new Livestream platform. I guess the only downside of it is you can't stream to any other providers. You can only stream to Livestream, but you get streaming for your viewers can view on their computers as well as on mobile devices. So moving on to the HD500, do we have any
Does anybody have any
last
Broadcaster questions?
The recipients have to have your software?
No. It depends on your plan. So we can talk about the plans that we offer. We offer a free plan, and then we offer 2 premium plans, one where you can embed anywhere, and then one where you have to stay on livestream.com. The only one, I say this because there is a limitation on the free plan. So for instance, like Hurricane Sandy, we had a lot of people use, which we're not going to talk about today. We have 2 apps for Android and iPhone called Livestream for Producers that I was just talking about that are amazing. You can stream with your iPhone for free. And the limitation of the free account is that people have to log in for free to watch on Livestream. Right? Because our whole idea is to be an event destination for people. And so we want logged in users so that we can tell them about all the amazing things that are on Livestream that they can watch. All of the paid accounts, they're free. You just go online, you go to livestream.com and you're watching. You don't need special software. It's not Silverlight.
If I want to set up a Wi-Fi network on my 4G phone and then use that with Wi-Fi going into it, do you have any like?
I really wouldn't recommend that.
That's not.
I mean, yeah. What's crazy is that we actually streamed. We couldn't get the Wi-Fi to watch in here, and we actually streamed through the Ethernet, and we're able to watch it over a iPhone 4G connection. But I wouldn't recommend streaming over it.
So
yeah.
If you're going to use that, really, what you'd want to do is either use a real serious Wi-Fi connection, or better yet, one of these dongles for the.
Yes, or Ethernet.
Oh, it has Ethernet.
Yes, it has Ethernet. We recommend Ethernet. It was kind of what we recommended for our clients. Obviously, that kills the whole portability thing. Like, you really want me to carry around an Ethernet cable? That's kind of dumb. The 4G works pretty amazing, though. I've used it in a car in Minnesota. As long as you have 4G, it works pretty well.
And what kind of bit rate can you?
Well, our lowest is 198 kbps.
Yeah.
So that's the mobile quality. It's kind of crappy. I mean, you know, if you're watching it on a computer, obviously. If you're watching on your phone, it's pretty good. We can go all the way up to HD, which is 2.5 megabit per second.
On 4G?
Yeah, you can, on some 4G. If you're in like a big city, yeah. I mean, if they say they have 4G, it depends on the network. Depends on how strong your signal is.
But if you choose, like,
Because I've gotten 6 megabits per second up on, we streamed a Lady Antebellum concert in Chicago like 2 years ago off of a 4G card.
But what happens if you
4 qualities.
If you say, okay, this is what the bit rate I want to work with, and then you find, you know what, this bandwidth isn't consistent. I'm not getting consistent.
So then normally what we would do is you would stop your stream and you would go down to a lower bit rate.
Okay, and you just do that a few times before you start streaming.
Preferably, yes. Normally what we'll do is we'll set up a test account so that only you can watch that account, and it's a private account. Like it's part of you publish an account on Livestream, so you publish your event, and you can have draft events. So you'll have a draft event, and you'll just test. I'll test. You know, we'll do that all day. A lot of times, if we have like we did a Nas concert on Tuesday night, Thomas was streaming for about 7 hours before, just because we have to have that confidence, not in our platform, but just in the internet. You know how the internet at the location, just make sure that's solid. You know, port 80's unblocked, 1594's unblocked, all the things that can happen to you because network administrators are trying to lock down things. So it's always a good idea to stream for a while before you're trying to go live, no matter what platform or what stream you're using.
Question?
Yeah.
Just to clarify things, so the actual streaming is from that box to you, right?
Yep.
You act as the CDN.
Yep. So we use Akamai as a backup CDN and as part of a CDN. So what's great about that is we use Akamai HDNet, and that allows, our platform has multi-adaptive bitrate and DVR. So as soon as you stream to us, let's say somebody shows up to your event and your event streamed at 8 o'clock and they showed up at 8:01, they can go back while you're live and watch it. And so by using Akamai HDNet, we're able to have those kind of features and have caching so that, you know, if all of a sudden 100,000 people want to see your event, it's not going to crash, right? And so we do act as a CDN, but we also use Akamai as a backup.
So, like for paid accounts,
Uh-huh.
not the free one, let's say they want to stream to their own website, so you provide them with a URL thing?
Yeah, depending on
Or-
the version of the account they have, whether they have a premium account or not, they can embed to any site. So for instance, New Year's Eve, which we produced and was on livestream.com, you could see it on livestream.com, but HuffPost picked it up. So we had it picked up by 14,000 websites embedded it. And it's our player, and you can embed the player only or a full feed experience, which we can talk about a little bit at the end, because one of the things that we're all about, so live events aren't just about video, right? And we have some really cool photo tools, like where you can have a Canon 5D or you can have a Nikon and you can go Wi-Fi straight to your feed.
Is
So you
your
can have
player based on
photographers.
Flash?
What's that? Yes. Yes, it is, but not the mobile player. So
No.
there's multiple. Yeah.
Can I use the device like local monitor? Let's say like I have the camera, the HDMI connected to this one. I want to see that on my 2 iPads.
Yes, you can. One of the things, and this goes to the platform, so we have about a 10 to 15 second latency on new live stream. So if, I only say that because, like, yes, the answer is, but let's say you're trying to get a really low latency, I would recommend like a Teradek product, or there's some other products for that specific application. But yeah, if you just want to monitor stuff, and you don't need it to be like, you don't need to like wave your hand and then see your hand exactly in the same time, then yes, that it would work for that.
So moving on to HD500 with all these mentions. The HD500 is our entry into the switcher market. Just to look at some of the top selling points for the Livestream HD500, and to give you a little bit of a background as to why we actually built the HD500. I started working for Livestream in 2009, and since then, for the most part, we've been using TriCaster. So, we're always taking our TriCaster kits out, a lot of cases, all that good stuff. These first 4 points really play into why we built the HD500. And the first is that it's truly portable. So you can see the unit set up here. It's a pretty small form factor, but this is how it travels. And it comes with everything you see here. You get the unit itself, you get a little screen cover to protect the screen when you're traveling, mouse, keyboard, all the cables, and you get the travel case. So it's easy to just throw it over your shoulder and take it with you. You can carry that thing right onto an airplane. And it's obviously is actually truly portable, as opposed to a lot of these solutions that say they are.
I can't tell you how many times we've taken a TriCaster, which I like the TriCaster product, but because it's so big, having to check it on airplanes always gives me more anxiety than I really need in my life. Being able to take this on a plane is pretty amazing.
Yes. So the second point is half the price. So again, we're really talking about TriCaster 455 as the closest competitor with the same similar feature set. And TriCaster 455 goes for $16,000 in the B&H store, and the HD500 is going for $8,000. And it's really the all-in-one solution. As you can see, you just plop it down on the table, plug everything in, you got the monitor built in, and you're good to go. And then the last point is that it's really what you need. So as Corey mentioned, we're doing about 100 productions a month these days, varied with different types of things. And so we really tried to build the HD500 with a very practical feature set based on what we know that we're using out in the field. So we kind of stripped it down, got rid of a bunch of the features that some of these other products have that we just found we were never using. And we really went for, again, a very practical production feature set.
The entire unit is basically built on our team, and so we're the dev team for the unit always in the field. I think that kind of separates us from a lot of other companies, specifically New Tech, because they don't have a production department. So like I said, we just used it at the People's Choice Awards. We use it every day. We use it in our studio. We're constantly improving it, and we have direct access to our developers at all times, it's funny, I brought up the Lady Antebellum show that we did in Chicago, and we had a TriCaster 850 go down on us, and that was kind of the catalytic start of, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to be in control of my own destiny, and that's kind of where this came from.
Yep. The next point is our support team. So we've got a support team, and we have 7-day-a-week phone support, so you can call up if you ever have any problems. And when you purchase the HD500, you get 2 months free. And then beyond that, you can extend it with different live stream plans that we'll talk about in a few minutes. And then your video everywhere, you can really get your video anywhere. Right now, on the current production release of the software, we only have streaming to live stream enabled, but on a future software update, and all of our software updates are free to users, we'll be unlocking streaming to Ustream as well as RTMP streaming, so you can really push to any service you want to. And then beyond that, as you can see here, we're taking an SDI out, so you can just take your program out and go into a Spinnaker or whatever other encoder you might want to, and stream that way.
That was kind of a big deal for us because we're a streaming company. It was a big deal for our CEO that everything needed to be broadcast quality. I think one of the big differences that separates us between Wirecast and us is that Wirecast does not do 1080i, and so they kind of got away from that because they're like, oh, we're streaming. It just needs to be progressive. Who cares about interlaced? Well, as everybody in this room probably knows, most of these broadcast cameras are and they're eye-based, and a lot of clients want stuff eye-based so they can play it back on television. And so it was really important to us to have that built in, that it was broadcast quality from end to end.
That's right.
So this is a switcher basically before it's a streaming switcher.
100%. This is a production switcher.
To a truck or to a TV? Or
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
whatever.
And the other thing that is great about it is that we're not reinventing the PCI cards. You know, we're using all Blackmagic inside. So it's a Blackmagic quad card, it's a Blackmagic studio card, and so it's things that are already designed to be that. You know.
And for your signals, what and how many I/O do you have on the box?
You can do 4 inputs if you want an SDI out. You can do 5 inputs if you want to stream out of the box and you don't need the SDI input, right? You don't need output, excuse me, right? So if you just want to stream, you can do 5 inputs. Now, you could do 1 input and 4 outputs, right? You can mix and match because the quad card, it's a limitation of the quad card, right? So the quad card has 4 ins, 4 outs, and Genlock, right? And so Blackmagic only allows you to do either in or out on each channel. And so you have to choose which one. But in the software, you can actually customize and say, no, I want 2 inputs, I want 2 DDRs, and I want a color bar. You know, you can really mix and match based on what you have on the cards.
So here's the HD500 on bnh.com, and it's going for $8,075. So Corey was just talking about this a little bit, but as he said, we've got a Blackmagic quad card in there and a Blackmagic Studio card. So you get your 4 SDI inputs on the quad card, and those are mini DIN connectors When you buy the HD500, you get the conversion cables to full-size BNC with that. Then we've also got the full-size BNC on the studio card, as well as HDMI. And the studio card also comes with a breakout cable that Corey's holding that also enables component, composite, S-video, and analog and AES audio. And of course, as I said, we're fully integrated with Livestream.com as well. We've got the streamer built right in, and it's based on the same encoding software that we've been developing for the last few years, so it's very stable. We use H.264 with AAC audio encoding, and you can push multi-bit rate with 720p HD.
Now, you can give the Livestream Studio HD500 1080, but you can only stream 720 on our platform currently.
So we've also announced a software-only version, and this is what Corey was talking about as well, scaling the software up to use for New Year's next year, hopefully. So the idea behind the software-only version is that you can purchase it, and then you can build your own hardware configuration around it. So the HD500 refers to this hardware configuration that you're seeing here, but the software is really, it's wide open to expand as far as you need it to. We've actually already built a 10-input version using 2 quad cards and a duo card to do 10 in or 9 in with 1 out. So just a look quickly, we mentioned TriCaster 455.
And this is kind of important right here. So this is Joe, one of our producers, and this is a TriCaster 455 setup with everything you need to take to a show, right? So that's the TriCaster 455. The Pelican has monitors, and then the other Pelican is our encoding kits, which have 2 shuttles in them. So that's everything we took, and now, of course, we just take this. Pretty significant difference.
Yeah, and the core feature difference we're talking about is the built-in multi-bit rate. So obviously you can stream from TriCaster, but it doesn't enable multi-bit rate. So as Corey mentioned, anytime we go out with the TriCaster package, we're still taking our big encoding kit so that we can push multi-bit rate.
It is one of the limitations with TriCaster. I don't know if you've ever used TriCaster, but being able to only have a single bit rate for a lot of clients is a deal breaker, right? They want mobile too. They don't just want HD. They want the whole range for their shows.
And then the other big difference, obviously the price difference. The TriCaster, they're going for $16,000 versus the HD500 for $8,000. Also looking at it against other products like Atom and data video switchers, those are obviously great lower price solutions, but they really lack a lot of the functionality that we're talking about here. So if you want to expand those systems to include media players or recording capabilities, you need to add components. It becomes much bulkier and much harder for a single person to operate. A lot of moving parts. So nowhere near as simple as the HD500.
Has anybody here used an Atom? I love them, but that's cool.
So just to touch a little bit on Livestream plans and pricing, I'll mention first, the entire new platform is completely ad-free, so no ads ever on any of your streams, and there are also no overages at all. So the first option is the free plan, and as Corey mentioned earlier, there are a few limitations. First, your viewers have to log in to view your live streams on the free plan, and then secondly, you get a 1-month cap on your event archive. So anytime you stream to live stream, your video is saved on the server and it becomes instantly available for playback or for download. With the free plan, you get a 30-month cap on that. So after, 30 days. So after 30 days, your server recordings are wiped. So the next step up is the basic plan, and that's $49 a month or $4.99 for the year if you pay up front. And you get the unlimited event archive with that, so your videos are never eliminated from the server, and your viewers no longer have to log in. And then the next step up from that is the premium plan, $3.99 a month or $39.99 for the year up front. And you get everything you get with the basic plan, plus you get live embedding, so you can put your player or the entire new live stream experience, as we said, on your website or on your Facebook page or wherever you want. And then you also get the expanded phone support. You get 7-day-a-week phone support with the premium plan.
And premium we do have a Facebook app that's built into the premium, so it's turn on, like you put in your credentials, goes right to your Facebook page. The other cool thing that's about new Livestream that we've built into new Livestream is the follow feature. So for instance, New Year's Eve has like 100,000 followers right now. We have a Livestream sessions that's 100,000 followers. And what's great about it is I did a really cheesy Green Bay Packers show for like multiple years on original Livestream, and I'd have to use like all these social, Twitter, Facebook, everything to get people to watch it. And one of the cool things that's built into our software now, our encoding software, is when you go live, you can notify the followers that follow you on new Livestream. And so from the software, they're finding out via email, oh, they just went live with this show that I follow. So there's this whole environment to get people to watch your show that's already built into our platform.
Is there any benefit to getting the new live stream for them other than the actual
The feed?
the blogginess?
Yeah, it's not just, it's a bunch of things, right? So it's the DVR feature, we don't have an original, right? Which is awesome, I love that. We're able to do highlight trims. So as you're live, like for New Year's, so as I would see a performance or an interview, I had one of my encoding engineers doing live highlights. And then we could send those out to press immediately. So right away, here's your VOD clip, here's your VOD clip. And while it's live, which is pretty mind-blowing in that way, multi-adaptive bitrate. So original is similar to YouTube, where you know how you're on YouTube and you're like, why does it look so crappy? And you click on the little thing on the right and you go up to HD and you click on HD, but you have to do that, right? So with adaptive bitrate, you don't have to do that. So when you come to new Livestream, it gives you 500 kbps or whatever the medium is, and then it pings you and it says, oh, you have HD. Boom, here's HD, right? So you don't have to do anything to get the better quality for your viewers. And so what we realized, the other thing is VODs are adaptive bitrate too, which is a little bit mind-blowing in and of itself, because if I'm watching a VOD and I only have, crappy internet, I can watch a medium version, which is what original would be. So on original, every time you watch a video, a VOD on original, it's 600 kbps. But you can watch HD on new. So there's that. There are a couple features on original that we will eventually have on new, but those are the main reasons to switch. The quality's, just better.
There's a definite video quality improvement.
Well, with the adaptive, yeah. Because more of your users are watching in HD. They don't have to click a button to do it, right? Yeah, no problem.
All right, great. And now we're just going to jump into an HD500 demo.
So this is a mirror of the interface.
Yeah. So right now I'm just taking an HDMI out of the graphics card that we have on board here. There's also a VGA output. And currently we're just duplicating the UI. But on a future software update, we'll release multi-view outputs similar to how TriCaster does it, where you can kind of reconfigure your secondary output to show whatever you want. So as you can see here, I'm just working in a standard Windows environment, and I can actually collapse the software and keep everything running while I work outside of it. Nice little feature, but we're just running Windows 7 here. So I'll go ahead and re-expand the software, and this is the main launch UI you're going to see here. The first thing you probably notice is the multi-view. So up top we've got our preview window and our program window, and then just below that we've got our 4 input sources. So right now I'm just taking our EX3 right here, and then I'm duplicating this Panasonic recorder that's just playing back a red carpet event that we produced last year.
This is a Marvel Avengers event for Marvel.
Then in my multi-view here, I've also got 2 graphics channels, and I've got 1 of 2 media channels enabled right now and 1 of 2 color generator channels. Then up top on the right here, we've got our main mix window for cutting around. Below that, our graphics overlay control. And then down at the bottom here, we've got modules for our graphics, our media, color generator, streaming, and then on the left side here, we've got our audio mixer and input settings. So all of these modules are actually fluid. I can drag my graphics over to the left-hand side, move stuff around as I see fit. But for now, I'm going to keep these over to the right, and I can actually collapse this whole right side here so that I can see the entire audio mixer if I need to. The whole UI is also fluid as well, so I can click and drag my multi-view and kind of rearrange it to optimize exactly what I'm doing.
The award show content is in some recording you have connected to the thing?
Yeah, it's just playing back from a recorder.
It's a Panasonic It's a little Panasonic AVC intro device we use to do our masters. And this is all 720 you're looking at right now.
And then up top in the left here, we've got our streaming and recording buttons. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you set up your HD500 is configure your settings. And the most important setting you're going to see here is the video format. Now, we hit a Blackmagic limitation here, which is that currently we don't support any in, any out. So whatever you choose from this drop-down list here, all of your input sources have to match, and all of your media sources, all of your media files have to match that format as well. But as you can see, we've got all the Blackmagic supported formats, which is basically any HD or SD format you could possibly want. And here we're running 720p 5994 with stereo audio. And we'll touch on a few of these other preferences when we get to their respective areas. So once you set up your video format, you're going to want to set up your I/O preferences. And again, as Corey mentioned, you have two options for how to run this guy. You can do up to 4 inputs with 1 live output, or you can do 5 live inputs with no live output, in which case you'd be streaming or recording in the box. So first you would select your output, and up top here you can see I've got all of my quad card connections available, as well as all my Studio 2 card connections. And we're going to stick with SDI on the Studio 2 card. Now, one cool little thing to note is that anytime you have one of the Studio card outputs active, they're actually all active. We kept them all in the drop-down menu selection just so that it's not as confusing when you go to configure inputs as well. But since I have SDI selected, I'm also getting HDMI out, component, composite, and S-video. Then down here in my inputs, you can see I've got my 4 cameras coming in on the Decklink quad card, connections 1 through 4 with embedded audio. Then I've got 2 graphics sources and my media source and my color source. So adding and removing sources is really simple. I can just click the minus button to remove a source, and you can see when I save that, the sources instantly disappear out of my multi-view. So you can really configure the multi-view to show just what you're using, which is a really nice feature. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and add those back. It's just as simple as clicking the plus button and selecting what you want out of the drop-down. Save that, and the sources reappear there. Then we've also got hotkey preferences, which just let the user redefine hotkeys on the keyboard for how they want to operate. We've got some recording preferences, some streaming preferences, and then in the About tab here, it'll just tell you what version of the software you're running. So this is version 1.0.20, which is actually our current production release. So any of our users out there with HD500s are running this version of the software right now.
How do you do an overlay? Let's say we've got a logo or something.
We'll get there.
We'll get to that.
Oh.
Yeah, we're just at the settings part.
Okay, so just to give you a look at how you can cut around in the UI, you got a couple different options. First of all, you can use the mouse in the main mix window up top here. So I can click the cut button to make a cut. I can click the fade button to make a fade.
You can see the SDI output is right here of this device too.
Yes. So click the fade button to make a fade, and that fade speed is defined right here in the speed field. That's defined in frames. So right now we're doing a 45 frame fade. And that setting is actually going to define fade speed as well for my graphics overlays and for follow functionality with the audio mixer. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get there. But I've also got a T-bar here that I can use to manually fade if I want to, and we've got a fade to black function.
Which does audio as well.
I can also cut using the mouse just in the multi-view here, so I can left click to preview a source, and I can right click to take a source to program. And then lastly, I can use the keyboard. Obviously you can redefine your hotkeys, but by default, enter is going to be for a hard cut, spacebar is going to give you a fade. I can preview all of my individual camera sources using the numbers, and I can take sources using the Fs. All right, so now we'll jump into graphics. So here I have 2 graphics channels enabled. As you can see down in my module at the bottom, I've got graphics 1 and graphics 2, and I've actually already prepared a few different graphic templates for you. So the graphics overlays are built on a standard DSK paradigm, which is very nice, but it kind of shifts things a little bit. In this scenario, you don't have to actually tie an individual asset or a DVE to your DSK. Instead, you build templates. And the nice thing about that is that you can host an infinite number of assets within a template, and you can have an infinite number of templates. The only limitation you're really going to run into is with your disk read-write speed. So here, I'm keeping my internal drive available for recording, and I'm hosting all of my media and graphics assets on an external USB 3 drive. We also support USB 2, and there's an eSATA port right on the side of the box. And then beyond that, we're going to have an expansion bay on the side here where you'll be able to plug SSDs in. So if you want to run SSDs, you can do that as well.
For recording too. And one of the things that's about this, for those of you that use the TriCaster, obviously the TriCaster uses more of the bus system, DVE, broadcast paradigm, and we're moving to the template paradigm, which I think it opens up the realm for those of us that are used to After Effects, that are used to Final Cut, that are more used to the layering-based systems. And so as we update, you're going to start seeing some pretty crazy features, quad features. They'll be a lot more intuitive to the user, I think, than using the bus system.
Yep. So here I've already started by building a full screen slate. Important to note, the only thing that the box will currently generate is text. So everything, all the assets that you're seeing here were delivered by our design team.
They're either PNGs or JPEGs.
Yeah, so we support JPEG or PNG with alpha. And here I've got a full screen slate that our design team delivered for a show we produced last year. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that to program. And the nice thing is when I bring an asset in, I can resize it and reposition it however I want right here in the template. And you can see that reflected on the live output as well as in my output window. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and keep that guy full screen. And then here in Graphics 2, I've prepared a corner bug. So again, PNG with alpha, and I can resize it, I can reposition it, and I can actually also add opacity to individual assets. So for now, I'm going to keep a little bit of opacity in my corner bug there. And I'll go ahead and bring that in just by clicking the air button here at Graphics 2. So there you see it come in on my output window as well as on the live SDI output there. Now I can also preview any of this stuff before I take it to air just by clicking on the preview button. So there you see it appear in my preview window, and then when I'm happy with it, I can just push it over.
So you basically have two downstream keys, even though you can also use the graphics channels as input channels.
So for now, I'm just going to keep the corner bug in there and jump back to Graphics 1 to take a look at another template that I built for lower thirds. So again, the lower third bed that you're seeing there, the yellow piece, was delivered by our design team, PNG with alpha, and then I've added some text on top of that. Now we have two different kinds of text you can add. The first is static text, and that's just going to be a static text, a static line of text that never changes. And then we also have dynamic text, and that's what I've added here. And dynamic text is great because it lets you input multiple lines of text for these assets in the same template. So for this use case where, for example, I'm doing lower thirds, I don't need to build a bunch of templates for my lower thirds. I can build one template and then input all of my information into that single template.
And this really helps. We did Met Gala. They never know who all the people are going to be. So you got to put 100 names in, and then of course somebody else is going to show up. You got to put that name in really quick, and you don't have time to build the thing. You just have time to type the text in and go.
So to add names or to change the names, I jump over to the data view. And here you can see the data view for my lower third template shows two lines of dynamic text, text 1 and text 2. And I've actually already built a few lower thirds for myself, Graham and Ryan from our team. I'll go ahead and add one for Corey. I just click the plus button, very simple, and I can add Corey in there. And a title for Corey. So now I can actually preview each one of these before I take them to program again. So I can just click on the preview button there, and you'll see it pop up in my preview window. And then once I'm happy with that, just hit the air button to push it over to air. And now while I'm airing my lower third, I can actually preview all of the other ones to make sure that I'm happy with them. So there you see I have Graham's lower third, I have Ryan's and Corey's. So I can add them on the fly, and then, you know, as Corey said, when you've got a client there who needs to approve them, you obviously need to be able to show them there in the overlay so that you can get them approved. And then when you're ready, just click the air button and it'll automatically transition over to the next one.
Now, all of that transition was based off of your global speed time. So all of that was based off the 45 frame time you set. So you can change that time. The other thing that the guys at the studio in B&H found that's really cool that Steve told me down there is that you can add another keyboard already, and you can have a guy who's just doing graphics and putting in names with another keyboard, as long as those, I told him, I said, you just have to make sure that the guy TDing and the guy doing graphics are really talking to each other, because they can kind of mess each other up. But already, like, these guys have found some pretty cool use cases.
So I can also, you know, as you see there, when I switch between different lines of text within the template, it just fades the text and brings the text back in. But if I want to, I can just fade the entire lower third out and then bring the next one in separately.
How do you do the fonts and stuff? Can you do shadows and stuff, drop shadows?
We will add drop shadows in a new in some of the upcoming versions. You can change any font that your system has, so Thomas can show you that right now, but any font that your system has and you can import fonts, you can use.
Okay.
So right here.
Yeah, here you can see in the template design view, I just click the arrow and it opens this dialog for font as well as text color. I can change the size, bolder, italic, and reposition it however I want.
So we'll add one of the first things we're going to add to this on the next version is drop shadow and some of the things you're going to want.
So that's about it for graphics. We'll take a look at the color generator channel really quick. This is pretty simple stuff, nothing too crazy here. I can choose to do a solid color, and I'll just bring that lower third graphic out of there. I can change the color, or I can do color bars, which I'll keep in there for now. Now I also have the option to add test tone here, and as you can see in my multi-view, each of my input sources has an audio PPM associated with it. So on the color channel source, you can see I can remove the test tone or bring it back, and I'll just leave that in there for now.
We really added that. It's a good way, you know, you drop your gear, you put your cameras on, and you don't really have cameras set out yet and you're running cable, you can just go ahead and stream color bars and tone to make sure you're getting out and you're streaming and while you're setting everything else up.
All right, so next we'll take a look at the media channel I have here. And again, I've got one of two media channels enabled, so I can add a second one if I want and build two different playlists, host different clips, and all that good stuff. So again, we hit another Blackmagic limitation right here with codec support. So right now, we only support Motion JPEG AVI, and currently we're doing all of our transcoding through Premiere. But on the next software update, we're also going to have a transcoder built in, which is something we're really looking forward to.
It's really amazing. I just saw it 2 days ago, and we dropped in MP4, I've dropped in an MOV. You can basically drop in almost any file, and then it transcodes in the system, and then lets you know when it's ready, and you're good to go. So that will be in the next version.
Yep, and then beyond that, we're hoping to open up the codec support in a future update as well.
My goal is to get animation, alpha channel animation support as soon as possible, because that's one of the big things, to be able to do alpha transitions and some of the more high-end stuff for clients. I think that'll be a really cool feature.
So as you can see here, I've brought in a couple clips, and again, these are hosted on my USB 3 drive. So I've just got a spinning cube that we use as some test footage, and then I've got the HD500 video that we saw earlier. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you bring clips in, and I'll actually just expand this a little bit more, is set your in and out points. So I've got some, you know, player control down here, but I can actually just scrub on the timeline to find my in and out points by clicking and dragging. Or if I want to, I can go frame by frame using the keyboard. And then by default, I is going to set my in point, and O is going to set my out point. So we've got autoplay functionality built in. If you don't know what autoplay means, it just means that when I take a media source to program, it's automatically going to start playing it. And then when I get to the end of the clip, it's automatically going to transition out into whatever I have in preview. So if I fade into the clip there, you see it starts playing. And then we added this really cool color overlay. So when I get to 20 seconds back on my clip, I get a yellow overlay like that. And when I get back to 10 seconds back on my clip, I get a red overlay to let me know, hey, the clip's about to end, we're going to transition. And then you'll see when we get down to 0, it'll automatically make the transition back to what I have in preview there. So I can add an infinite number of clips to this playlist. Again, you're just going to hit a bottleneck with disk read-write speed. And then I can choose to play this as a playlist if I want by clicking on the playlist icon. And I can loop the playlist, or I can just loop an individual clip.
One of the cool features of original live stream is the fact that you could have autoplay on your channel, and you have a clip. And this, we kind of brought this back for that reason, where you could have you could schedule clips for your client and just have that run on their site the entire time.
All right, so now we'll take a look at the audio mixer. So I'm just going to go ahead and collapse that right-hand side. And as you can see, we've got a source fader for each of our camera inputs, as well as our media and our color channels. And then we've also got a fader for stream out and record out. So before I even touch the mixer here at all, I'm going to want to configure my camera inputs, and I do that by jumping over to the Input Settings tab. I can also just click on the gear wheel associated with each multi-view, and it'll launch the input settings for that specific camera. So down here up on the left rather, you can see I've got my 4 cameras to choose from the list. I'll stick with camera 1 for now. And another Blackmagic limitation, as you guys know, SDI supports 16 channels of embedded audio, but here we're only seeing 8 channels coming in on the quad card. But what you're going to want to do here is select 2 audio channels to assign to your main source fader.
Right now, the only Blackmagic card that supports 16 channels of audio is the Blackmagic 4K.
How do you real world monitor the streaming and recording audio levels?
Well,
we'll get to
that's
that
a good question.
when we jump
We definitely
into
will
the
get to
mixer
that. It's a good question though, because it's all about end to end.
So here on camera 1, I've got my channel 1 and 2 assigned to left and right respectively on my source fader, and I've also got pre-fader gain control here for each of my input channels. Now on camera 2, I've actually selected channels 5 and 6, and as you can see, there's no audio coming in there, and I have no audio coming in on my camera 2 PPMs. Then camera 3 and camera 4, I've got channels 1 and 2 coming as well. So I'll jump back over to the audio mixer, and there are a few different ways you can run this. The first is just to air your audio. So I can air a source, which just means that it's automatically going to push that audio out to my program out, and I can air as many sources as I want, or just a single source.
So a single source, your typical paradigm, I've got an A1, they're mixing everything, I throw the master out from my A1 onto my embedded channel, I'm done. I push air, I let him do what he needs to do, I set my levels, I'm done.
We've also got follow functionality. So follow just means that your audio transitions are going to follow your video transitions. So if I have follow enabled on all of my camera sources and I take camera 1 audio will be live. If I take camera 2 audio will be live, and so forth. And within the follow paradigm, we've got, again, the global fade speed there is going to define your audio crossfade time as well. So we're just going to set up a slightly different use case here. Let's assume that we have audio coming in, program audio coming in on camera 3, and we want to link all of our cameras together so that all 4 of our cameras are taking audio from camera 3, and then we can still follow audio on our media channel separately. So we've added this grouping feature that's actually really cool. You just click on the little link button to group a camera, and it comes up with a menu there. So I'm going to group cameras 1, 2, and 4. And if you look at the multi-view previews, you'll see that as I click the link button, the PPMs associated with that channel disappear as it's waiting for me to reassign the audio. So here, as I choose camera 3, you'll see PPMs reappear on each of my sources. And now all of my cameras, 1 through 4, are grouped to audio 3, and I still have my media channels separate so that I can follow audio there.
And not to kick a dead horse, but one of the limitations of NewTek that we discovered when we did Food Network Thanksgiving Live last year is we had a host in another room, then we had a host in a separate room, and then we were playing clips on the media channel, and there was no way to group the audio. So like this, with this extra layer of complexity. So in TriCaster, I can follow, but it's not enough just to follow. I need to be able to follow but have groups. And so this group has this audio, and this group has this audio, and this media player has this audio, so that really, this takes it to a new level so that you don't have to have an A1. You can have all your audio in, maybe have A2s, and mix pretty much everything based on how you're switching. The follow and the grouping paradigms go to this whole like man in a box thing, like me, my box, and that's all I need. I don't need anybody else. It really allows you to be that one-man show that some of us are really looking to be.
So now we've also got monitoring built right into the box you were asking about, and the monitoring is all done off of the 1/8" jack on the side, so it's just a between the two things?
So you can actually you can basically solo the, excuse me.
So I've actually got the headphone jack plugged in right now.
Click one, you listen, you click the other one, you listen. Okay.
So there you go. You can see I can monitor an individual source. I can monitor multiple sources together. Don't want to do that right now. Or if I want, I can just monitor my line cut output, which right now is not putting anything because I'm live with my color channel and I'm not following audio there. So I'm going to keep the monitor live actually, and I'll just go ahead and do some cutting around here. So I'm going to fade into my show audio there. You can hear that nice clean 45 frame fade, and I'll transition to media as well. Let's do this.
10, 9, 8.
So there's the fade to my audio.
6, 5, 4.
And I'll just let that play out.
We're live. We thought it was really important, even when you're making a cut between, to have your audio have some kind of nice, just a tail fade. Because when you play with the TriCast, you play with the switchers, when they have this follow, if you cut, it cuts the audio. And it's really bad. It's not something that you really ever want to hear. You never want to hear audio. And no matter what you're doing, you don't really want to hear the audio just cut off immediately. You kind of want to just get a little trail out of it.
Yeah, so to that end, actually, we added this preferences setting here for audio crossfade duration. So this is going to define the fade speed between audio sources with the follow paradigm when you're cutting. So when you're fading between sources, it's going to follow your global fade speed, but when you're cutting, it's going to follow this audio crossfade duration, and by default, it's set for 5 frames, so you get a nice clean fade, clean transition, as Corey was saying.
And we made it so if you really want to make it 0 and screw yourself, you still can.
So here,
10, 9.
You can hear, you don't get that hard cut.
There's no
you get
hard
a nice
cut,
clean
there's no
transition.
clippy.
So up top here in the right-hand corner, I've got my master monitor control. Can bring that up or down as I see fit. And then I can also mute either individual sources just by clicking the mute button, or I can mute my master output. Now also, as Corey mentioned, we've got 2 different faders here for stream out and record out. Right now they're linked with this link button at the bottom, but I can unlink them and set a different level for each of my 2 outputs there. Now the other nice thing with the mixer here is that all of these faders are fluid. So in this use case, for example, where I'm just using camera 3 audio and my media source, I can actually move those faders over to the front of the mixer, and that way I can still keep my other modules open and still work on all my other stuff here while I can see all my pertinent audio information. So I'm going to disable the monitor. And the last 2 things that we're going to talk about here are recording and streaming. So we've got recording built right into the box. Yes?
Is there any other control surface that you can split off like TriCaster can, so you can have another one working like an iPad?
Yeah, like an iPad, like they have. No,
Or surface?
It's a good question. We do hope to come out with a control surface by NAB. That's kind of our plan. I've seen it. It looks hot, but
It's really tight.
totally. It's hot when you have that. I mean, I want to have an iPad for a graphics operator and then have an iPad, you know what I mean? Like if you had like an iPad for each person, because as you get to like something like New Year's and you've got like 10 people doing multiple jobs, you really want that, like each person having control over their little realm. So yeah, it's definitely in the works for sure.
Is there any roadmap in terms of being able to apply different effects to the record out versus stream?
Yeah, I would love that. Like I want a normalizer limit. I want a normalizer limiter on the stream, and then I want a limiter. You know what I mean? Like yes, 100%. I mean, if you saw my priority list, it would probably be like everything you want. I mean, it's pretty extensive.
Of course. So back to the recording feature. Up top here, it's as simple as just hitting the record button. Again, like I said, right now I save the internal drive, so I'm recording to the internal drive, and I get time code running here when I start, and then I also get a live readout of how much disk space I have. So right now I've got 6 hours and 42 minutes left on my disk.
You can try this. Put the two graphics on, like have another graphic on. I mean, I just want to point out the CPU usage up on the top right. So obviously we're 720p right now. We're recording a 720p. We're not streaming right now. He's going to show that, but you know, we're not even hitting 10% CPU usage. So you can kind of get an idea. I don't know if you've used the TriCaster, but if you try to record and stream and do all the stuff, it starts to get a little bit like what's happening to me right now. And you know, there's quite a bit going on with the multi-view, and we're not even touching this computer right now.
When you're recording, are you recording all input sources or just what's live?
Just program. So we don't record ISOs, just program. But the program is AVI motion JPEG, 100 megabit. So it's a nice quality recording.
And since it's motion JPEG AVI, all your recordings are instantly available for playback in your media as well. And then the last feature is streaming. And unfortunately, we can't stream right now. B&H has a really tight hold on their network here, but I will just run you through it a little bit. So we've got this streaming module built in here. And again, right now, we only support the new live stream, but on the next software update, you'll also see a tab here for Ustream as well as RTMP streaming.
And YouTube Live. And to your question, you'll actually be able to stream to original live stream, which a lot of people actually really want.
Yeah. So currently, again, with just the new live stream, you would enter in your credentials here and log into your account. And then it's as simple as just making two selections. First, you have to choose the event within your account that you want to stream to. And then you need to select a quality based on your available bandwidth. So we've got a number of single quality bit rates as well as some multi-bit rate selections in the quality dropdown. So if you've got a really good connection, you can stream multi-bit rate with HD. And then, as we said, the player on the live stream side is adaptive. So when your viewers connect, it'll test their connection and it'll give them whichever quality is best suited for them so that they have a good experience. So once I'm logged in and I've selected my event and my quality, it's as easy as just hitting the stream button. Time code would start running and I get a little bit more useful information up here in the streaming info pane. So first I get live outgoing frames per second and kbps. Then I get a live reading of concurrent viewers on my channel viewing the stream, and then I get a little streaming indicator here. Hopefully that's telling me perfect streaming, but it'll also let me know if I'm having bandwidth issues. So if my bandwidth isn't good enough to support the quality selection that I made, it'll let me know, hey, you need to drop a quality here. It'll also let me know if I lose my connection altogether, and it'll let me know if I'm spiking out my CPU above 95%, but as we said, 95% is real hard to get to. If I was doing all of this, running my graphics, running my record and all that stuff, and streaming 3 qualities with HD, we would maybe see this spike out around 35 or 40%.
And that's 720. Even at 1080, I think it gets to like 60 then, right?
Yeah. So that's about it for HD500. Any questions?
Is the audio re-embedded on the main output itself on the SDI?
Yes.
Yes, the audio is embedded. You can actually turn that up and you'll hear it. So there it is on our SDI line.
This is just SDI.
A lot of times I'm shooting people PowerPoint presentations, and so generally I like to not shoot the screen, but shoot them, and so it seems to me that one way to do it would be to obviously get PowerPoint. Like, can you open does that have PowerPoint on it? Can you
It doesn't. You could open it, but it won't get into the system. So there's a couple ways, right? Normally I would use like a full, I mean, in an ideal world, I'll use like a Folsom Barco scan converter, right? Like an Image Pro. And that's like $5,000, so to rent whatever. But that's be my ideal, and bringing it on an input. The other thing that I would do is I like to, how some people have PowerPoints and it's like video too. and you want to get that whole thing. You don't just want to get like the slide part, and you want to get the video and the audio. So I'll actually record into the HD500. So a way you can do that is you can actually, like a MacBook Pro will spit out 720p, depending on what your project format. So this is like, there's a range of ways you can do this, but it's a question everybody asks, is to use a Blackmagic converter, go out the HDMI, and use a Blackmagic HDMI to SDI, and go into SDI into the HD500, and then you can, it's an input, right? And so then you can have another laptop with the PowerPoint. Now what we're hoping to do is add one AirPlay support, which if you had AirPlay support, you can use any Apple laptop. And the second thing that a lot of people love that I love about TriCaster and also about Wirecast is the ability to have a networked computer and be able to have that as a source. So if I have any networked laptop or computer as a source that has PowerPoint on it, boom, I'm going right in there, I'm good to go. So
you're saying come out of your monitor, out of your computer, into a HDMI.
go into it.
Blackmagic.
You can actually
Come out
take
SDI.
HDMI right in on the
If you're 720,
studio
yeah.
card.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yes,
And
so
then
you don't
can
even need
just,
the
like,
converter.
Play it on the laptop as a live source. And,
Yep.
And away you go. So you don't want to mess up the graphics in that thing. You might want to not mess around with the graphics. Think of it more as a video. So.
Yeah, well, you could also just, export your PowerPoint as PNGs and do it that way. I mean, there's a
If
number
they're
of
just
ways to
slides,
do it.
yeah, if there's no video on them, you might as well do that. Just export them as 720 or 1080, whatever you're in.
You put like your little hard drive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And you can host that on the internal drive as well. I mean, best use case or best practice is never to read and write to the disk at the same time. That's why I'm hosting these externally. But you can record to the disk and host some image files there as well.
That is what's nice about it having USB 3 is that you can do that. You don't have to. You can use the USB 3 drive and just have that project on there and just have your stuff on there, not have to use the internal.
Right. And what's best practices for like if you want to record, you stream and you want to record? I mean, is there any way to get redundant like a RAID 1?
Yeah. So not quite a RAID 1 or a RAID 5, but you can on the side port here. We can do an SSD drive.
Okay.
It's obviously costs more, but you can do SSDs. We've had the professional bull riders use that use case already, where they're just recording and they just pull out the SSD and just go. They got the recordings just happening all the time.
And that codec that it records to, is
That's right now, that's Blackmagic AVI Motion JPEG.
And is that what, 1 gig per minute?
It's 100 megabits per second. I have to look at my little app to see what it is.
If you're recording a kind of rather long event, what's the how big of a hard drive do you have that you're
The internal is 500 gigs, so I've actually been recording on this for quite some time, but here I've got 6 hours and 32 minutes left at 720p. So, if I cleared the hard drive, I would probably have something like 8 hours.
Yep.
So if you're shooting with a camera that's using a 24pn frame rate, the SDI is actually 5994.
Because of Blackmagic and how they do it, right?
That's what's coming out. So
I'm not
that's
100% sure.
Blackmagic 720p.
I'm not exactly
I mean,
sure. On an EX3, yes. Like on an EX3, if you say EX3 24p, it's technically 5994 because we told Obama's campaign that forever, and they were like, no, no, no. And we're like, no, yes. But if you set if you set the format for 24p, you're in 24p and you're out 24p.
Yeah, it depends on your cameras. I mean, like F3, we have an F3.
You have to have a camera that's a true 24p camera, right?
Well, it's HPX 170, but I mean, I use a regular monitor, and it goes into the monitor, and I think it says 5994.
Right, that's your camera. So a camera will record 24p,
Right,
but the SDI is a totally different animal, and that's your camera. But Blackmagic, when it says 24p, it's truly 24p. Like if you can do 720, sorry, I keep tripping over. You can do 720, 24. You can do 24p in this box as long as everything's 24p.
What about, is there any sort of color correction or brightness or any of the stuff like on Procaster?
No, not yet, which is a great feature. As people might not know, an encoder always has the tendency to stop down on your image, no matter what it is. Our encoding software, especially on the different bit rates, what's nice about it on the audio side is that if you're at an HD bitrate, we do 256 on the audio, which is a really nice bitrate for audio. And on the high, we're at 128, and even on medium, which 128 is kind of that sweet spot where you can still kind of edit a podcast and like edit stuff and not totally crush the audio. And then it's 96 on the mobile. So to your point, in Procaster and Producer, we have color correction software. We will add that into this, right? Because this engine is based off of Procaster and Producer, which is our free encoding software that we give. So we will add the color correction piece. What we always find is that when you stream this out, it stops down and crushes the blacks just slightly, enough to see. Almost every encoder does that, from a high-end, $10,000 high vision encoder to cheesy Wirecast. So what we tend to do with our encoding software is we have the color correction software, and we're able to like bump up the video and bump up the chroma just a little bit so that it offsets that happening, and we will add that for sure.
How many times do you crash this thing? How
Well, I'll put it this way. This production version I've had running on my desk for about 2 weeks straight at 1080i. That's only because that's the last version that came out. Previous versions, I mean, yeah, we've had crashes, but not on a production version. It's been a while.
Yeah.
For instance, we did a training at Able Cine, Thomas and I, and it was a 2-day training, and we allowed people to use the beta version, so they weren't using production, and it was fascinating. We really thought about it. We're like, oh, do we really want people using a beta version? And they had a lot of fun with it, and so. When it crashed, we would have them do the bug report, and it would only crash like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And it was like a clear thing. It was like, oh, I moved this, and then I did this, and then boom, and then we fixed it. You know what I mean? So it was like, it was clear stuff. One of the biggest things about this is that it has to be robust. Like, I'm using this for clients now that are paying us, AMC, they pay us like $50,000 for one shoot, and it's like, it's got to work. It cannot crash. Like, it cannot. Or it's our reputation. So it's a big deal. I mean, have I seen it crash? Yes. Have I seen this version crash? No. Great. Thank you guys for coming. We had a good crowd. Appreciate it.
For more information, please visit us online, give us a call, or stop by our New York City Superstore. You can also connect with us on the web.